Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. So here are some analytical interpretations on Beethoven's very first published sonata, the F minor Opus 2 number 1. A brief historical insight to this sonata. Beethoven was at the age of 26 when he published 3 sonatas under this Opus number 2. One sonata in minor key, he placed as the first of the set, and 2 in major keys, the A majors and the C majors that follow. This raises a question in me. Why did not Beethoven arrange the set like in this order of tonality? First, one of the major keys, and then the only one minor key in the middle, and then another major key sonata at the end. Well, I see Beethoven as a person who was carefully systematic. I believe this was intentional, as if with his very first published sonata, he wanted to proclaim who a Beethoven was. 2 things to remember. First, Beethoven was early in his career as an independent musician. That means the crowd was watching him closely to what would come out of his pen. Piano sonata in the classical period was like a test for any composers to prove himself worthy of the crowd's attentions and interest or not. Second thing to remember, minor key was not that frequently offered to the large audience at that time. Take it for an example. Out of about 19 sonatas that Mozart wrote, only 2 were in minor keys, the A minor and the C minor. Think also about Mozart's symphonies and concertos. How many minor keys are there? Very few. Look at Haydn, Clementi, and other composers from the classical period. Same happening. So, this was quite a brave move that Beethoven took, placing the minor key sonata to be the very first of the set. Well, those 2 things to be in our considerations will have some influence to how we analyze this sonata. Let us begin with the first movement. At least there are 3 interesting things that I discovered. The very first one is the things that is overlooked too frequently. We find single note melody to start this sonata. Where else could we find such thing in Beethoven's 32 sonatas? Let's visit his Opus 57. This is the big brother of the F minor key. Quite similar, but not the same. We have a unison in double octaves here. At least the melody is not alone in the Opus 57, the so-called the Appassionata. But this sounds like a lonely opening to me. Realizing this will bring a deeper connections for me to the music and to the composers. Now, the second interesting thing is the rising and falling of the theme or motif. We have the rising so-called Mannheim rocket, which basically is an arpeggiated triad. Here we have the tonic triad of F minor, followed by its dominant 7, also rising and arpeggiated. What do we have in the secondary theme? It is the same motif with the same rhythmic pattern, except going to a different direction. The primary theme is rocketing up, and the secondary theme is plunging down. Beethoven was very efficient in using his materials. This is one among so many other examples. But more importantly, what does it mean here? I believe he was telling a story of a person who tried to rise up, but the world was trying to crush him down. That person could be Beethoven himself, representing many other human beings who struggle the same. The third interesting thing is the ambiguity of minor and major tonality. Let me review briefly the traditions of sonata allegro form now. Normally, a sonata in minor key would have the secondary theme in its relative major key. Well, Beethoven moved from F minor to A flat major eventually, but reluctantly. Here we almost arrive at the A flat major key. Let me improvise a little bit here to show you what if Beethoven wanted to follow the tradition. He would arrive clearly at the A flat major tonic. Here is the A flat major tonic. But that was not what Beethoven did. He stops here. He let it hang in the dominant 7, stayed there quite some time. And look what he did. Not just delaying the arrival of the tonic, the A flat major, he flattened the 6. This is what would be a normal A flat major arrival, but that was not what Beethoven wrote, as we know. And do you notice what Beethoven wrote for the accompaniment? A tremolo, symbolizing a turmoil, the troubled water. Eventually, Beethoven comes to the A flat major. But look, now Beethoven flattened the 3rd. And 3 times he did. This is the C major scale. If I flatten the 3rd scale degree, it turns to minor. What does this mean? Hanging at the dominant chord, delaying the arrival to the tonic chord, as if he were an unwelcome guest to this world. That's what I believe how Beethoven felt. 3 times he flattened the 6 here. First time. And 3 times. And one more thing. The restless rest, so I call this rest, rest, rest. But they are not restful. Still rest, 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 and then. With these abundant messages beneath the notes that Beethoven wrote, I believe he was expressing his uneasiness with a lot of things in his life, both his personal life and his social life. As if a person wants to move forward, but there is something holding him back.